That's me, a dominant force, apparently. Feeling a little bit like Britney Spears at the moment, so that's how dominant I feel. Um, my task tonight has been to, they asked me to talk a little bit about the current state of the media landscape, particularly in terms of investment, and talk a little bit about the best strategies to succeed. Does everyone hear me okay? Yeah. So tonight you're going to find out a little bit about, as I said, the investment levels at the moment, and we're also going to tell you how to solve all your marketing problems. So it's a good night spent, I think. First of all, I talk about the growth in advertising spend over the last 5-6 years. As you can see at the start of this chart, well, as you can't see at the end of the chart, but take my word for it, that at the start of the chart, it shows that we're coming out of the end of recession. So spend was still dropping a little bit, reaching its kind of trough in 2012. There was then a pickup, and the red line shows GDP. So in most developed markets, GDP is linked to advertising investment. That was all going fine through 15, 16, 17, a little bit of an issue. John told me I'm not allowed to mention it, but something happened to do with the UK and Europe. So around that, there was a little bit of uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, advertising doesn't thrive. So what we're hoping, and maybe the workshop on the 26th will sort all that out for you, but what we're hoping is as we get more clarity around Brexit, we'll feel that link to GDP coming back. The interesting thing, when you actually break it down as to where and what media people are using, is a little bit difficult to see, but on the bottom there is, and you're going to be blown away by this, and you're all going to be tweeting, but online is doing quite well, okay? And it is taking money from other media, and some of those in particular, news media and print, have suffered the worst. The good news is that it hasn't taken it from TV. TV has been very resilient during the last couple of years. It's been very consistent. So television is holding its own. Online now accounts for about 36% of all the spend that happens in the Irish market, and that's dominated by the global media brands such as Facebook and Google. But TV is holding its own. Yes, the way that we are consuming TV is different. What I've got here is a spread of how people are consuming it, and but still 72% of the consumption of television is done live. That's people sitting down and turning on a television, actually watching a program. It's hard to believe. But so most people are still watching in the traditional way. Now, we've got all these different ways of doing it. You can got streaming video, you've got on demand, you've got time shifting. But what everyone's talking about now at the moment are those over-the-top services like Netflix and how huge they are at the moment. I'm sure all your friends have bored you about, oh, have you not got in the ground floor with House of Cards or Ozark? Well, rest assured that they account for about 3% of total viewing. That's roughly the same as TG Car. So if you're a big Russ Naroon fan, well then you're just as cool as all those early adopters. So TV is still resilient, but we should be calling it video. It just means that it's consumed in different ways, with 221 minutes per day for every adult watching. That's an extraordinary amount of time. The real problem is that with all of that different ways of consuming media, is that we're seeing a hell of a lot more ads. So we're seeing 370 ads per day. That's about twice as what we were consuming 10 years ago. Now, that's an awful lot of clutter, and that gives you a hell of a lot of challenges. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the book How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp. And this has been kind of seminal work. And basically, if you're going to read one marketing book this year, please read that, or at least pretend you read it. And I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a synopsis of it, so it'll be much easier to pretend. Basically, what Byron Sharp has said, the way to grow a brand is to improve its mental and physical availability. Everything else is secondary. Physical availability, I'm going to leave over to you experts, but mental availability is where brands come in. Because people don't remember ads. That's a fact, unfortunately. We remember brands. We don't remember what we put in ads and what we tell people. People remember how we make them feel. So it's really important that we work on our brands. Brands are the shortcuts with which our consumers make the impulsive decision at purchase time. So we have to help them to get to those shortcuts quicker. So to summarize what Byron Sharp is doing, and I'll summarize in 3 points. And again, these 3 points, you don't need to read a book, so I'm saving you so much time. It's go broad, not niche. And that's really, really important, that beer drinkers are not just young men. So the idea is that growth will come from light users, not loyalists. And we spend an awful lot of time, disproportionate amount of time, focusing on loyalists and identifying these key niches that we'll put so much effort and time and money into. But really, probably what you're doing is rewarding those people who buy your brand anyway. The focus should be on recruiting as many light users and increase your penetration. Next is don't go big, go long. Maybe reconsider going with a real heavy campaign over a short period of time and look at doing lighter weights over a longer period of time, and therefore you get more purchase cycles and get that mental availability more prominent. This can be helped by using radio along with video and online in order to elongate that as a cost regulator. It's a good cost-effective way of extending out that longevity. The third point is be distinct rather than differentiated. We all want to be different, and we put an awful lot of effort into it again. But let's work with what you've got in your brands. You know, find the things that the consumer is engaged with and really leverage those. Probably the best example of that is the swoosh from Nike. Now, we all can't have that, but there are great examples in the Irish market, and particularly in the food sector, where we can take great assets that we have and really leverage them, like Mr. Tato, which was a legacy icon that existed, but by thinking more laterally about things, it actually revitalized that for a modern audience. Next, you can use distinctive colors and mnemonics like Oh, Mr. Brennan, etc., with Brennan's Bread, another really strong way of leveraging that to get to those shortcuts. Now, I said that if there's one book you should read, that should be Byron Sharp's book, but I told you everything about that book, so you don't need to read it anymore. So the one book you do need to read is Core Media's and AI's publication, Marketing Multiplied. What we tried to do there was to identify the macroeconomic and microeconomic benefits of marketing, and also to look at the work of Liz Binnett and Peter Fields, who have analysed hundreds and hundreds of campaigns to find out what were the success factors. And I've summarised those even quicker into 2 points, and I'll finish with those. First of all, invest in creativity. Now, this is a person with a media background telling you to spend more money on creative, but really do invest in creative. It has a commercial benefit. And as you can see from the image there with John Lewis went from 2010, where they had a market share of 23%, to 30% in 2016. And what they did there was invest in creative. And they bucked the trend against advertising and using short-term, which would what the category would be doing. And this is one of the more established and mature categories that exists. And they invest in creative, and they changed the market. Now they've owned Christmas over the last number of Christmas, and people look forward to the commercial. What would we all give for people, the consumer, to look forward to the next ad that you have? So in the past, we had volume would be great. I'm in the business a long time, and when I started in the business, as John alluded to, you could buy one spot on TV and you would get 50% of your audience with one spot. Now, that's when I started in business when I was 19. That's 5 years ago. No. So that's, okay, it's 30 years ago, but it proves the point that just the market has changed. One spot, 50%. If I was going to do that today, I probably need 100 spots. So today, great beats volume. You do have to differentiate through creativity, and that's where you can have your distinctiveness and get that longevity and those shortcuts. So please invest in creative. And we know this for a fact that that creatively awarded campaigns are 6 times as effective as non-creatively awarded campaigns. So that's a real commercial benefit from investing in your creative and finding those assets that the consumer will engage with. And then finally, short-term versus long-term. Please plan for the long-term. Because I know we're all really obsessed, and our boardrooms are obsessed with the quick results. And of course, advertising has to deliver quick results. But hopefully you can see this chart. In the dark, that is short-term campaigns, and in the light, it's long-term campaigns. And in terms of effectiveness, so we see that short-term campaigns are much better at delivering short-term sales. Big surprise. They bloody well should, because that's what they're supposed to do. So that's price promotions and tactical campaigns. They will deliver short-term sales. However, when it comes to the important factors, like market share effects and all the benefits that comes with that, and also profit effects, making money, then long-term campaigns have them beat. And not only does it have those benefits, short-term campaigns are actually damaging the brands and the lifespan of your brands, and it's also damaging the overall efficiency of advertising as a whole. So please consider it. And what's the ideal mix? Well, the mix that Peter Field and Liz Bennett come up with was a 60-40 split in favor of long-term campaigns investment. And that's what John Lewis have done, and that's how they've been able to redefine not only their own fortunes, but the fortunes of a category that's been stayed for decades. So, to summarize, what we're going to do to have wonderful success is video is still the most effective channel, so use it wisely. Target a broad audience, not a niche one. Don't go big, go long. Use distinct assets that you have to build those memory shortcuts. Invest in creativity and plan with a 60-40 split in favor of long-term. You do those, you're going to have success for your brands. I told you I'd tell you how to have success, and there I did it. So thank you very much.